So now that we know a little bit about a megger and what it's designed to do, let's test two different compressors. Now these are both cutaway compressors that we use in a training class, but I want to show you how a megger can show you things that a standard ohm meter sometimes can't. So when we're trying to diagnose a compressor motor, and we're trying to find out if it's bad, there's two different things we would check. First, we would go between each pair of windings. Common to run, common to start, start to run. The way this would work out is start to run would be the highest resistance, and then common to run and common to start. Those two resistances should add together. If that's all good, then we know internally it's sound. We would then check each winding to ground, and we will be looking for open line or infinite resistance, meaning no electricity is going to ground. So let's check this scroll compressor to see if any electricity could possibly get to ground. So I'm going to touch this lead here, which is labeled as run. And I'm going to go to the copper tube and scratch it up a little bit to get it clean. Got an open line there. Let's move over here to where our common terminal is. And I've got open line there. Then we're going to come to our start terminal, and we've got open line there. Okay. One point of safety that I want to talk to you about first is that what I just did is not the standard test procedure we'd want you to do in the field. We would not want you to take your ohm meter directly to these pins. We would want you to go to the contactor and disconnect L1 and L2, go to the capacitor and disconnect the hermetic wire. Reason being, these fusite plugs are basically a rubber plug. If the compressor has shorted, generated a lot of heat, this can become brittle, and now it's got 200 pounds, 300 pounds, 400 pounds of stagnant pressure sitting behind it. You jostle one of these at the right moment with the right pressure behind it, this is going to shoot out like a rocket. If your hand's here, it's going to go through your hand. If your face is there, it's going into your face. So I would do this test at the contactor and the wire from the capacitor first. I wouldn't go directly here. Only if my readings seemed bad would I go here. And I made it a practice to pull a lot of refrigerant out before testing this, because if I lose feeling in my hand or I lose sight in my eyes, my career is over. So just the best practice. But for our sake, we ohmed out the compressor between each terminal and they were good, and we ohmed out each terminal to ground and they were good. Didn't show us a problem. Now let's do the same test but with our megger. Again, we would take our black lead and scratch up one line on the common or on the suction line. If we had the ability to clip it on somewhere, we would. This is what we're going to do here. Then we would take the red lead, we would touch a terminal and push the button. And again, if the light lights up in between this light blue line, it's in the good range. That's between 1,000 to 100 meg ohms. If we're in the 90 to say 40 meg ohm range, there's a caution. That compressor is either starting to fail or we have an excess of moisture in there which is allowing the current to go to ground. If we're above it, it's a goner. We don't want to mess with it. And again, when we tested this out, it tested fine originally. So let's try it again here. We're going to start with the run terminal. And actually, look, showing 300 meg ohms to ground. So that's showing me we're still in the good range, but we're on the lower side of being good. Here, we're definitely in the good range. Here, we're all the way up at the 200 range. This is telling me that this thing is starting to have problems. What I would do here is I would possibly remove the refrigerant, remove the filter line dryer, replace the filter line dryer and recharge it with clean, fresh refrigerant and see if the meg values change. If they don't, then I know I have a compressor that's starting to go dead. Let's move over here to this other compressor and show you what it would look like if the compressor was shorting to ground and you wanted to see what a bad reading would look like. So again, these are compressors from our lab, so they're cutaways. I would take the black lead of the megger. Start that over. I would take the black lead of the megger and clip it to a copper tube, scratch off the paint a little bit, and then just go terminal to terminal to see if we have any shorted windings. Here, no, 1,000 meg ohms or greater. Here, wow, that winding is definitely shorted to ground. That's why you tripped your breaker. This one would be a dead giveaway. This first compressor may only trip the breaker after it's run long enough, got hot enough, or had enough voltage to it. So what a megger gives you the ability to do is determine if a compressor is starting to fail or if it's in the danger zone before it actually fails. Now you can use a megger on a compressor, but you can use a megger on any type of motor, on coils. The Supco even tells you on relay packs, different control circuits where you want to check for resistance to ground. This will help you find those nuisance problems that you can't find any other way. Thanks for tuning in to Toolbox Tuesday, and we'll see you next time.